अगर किसी को मुझसे शादी करनी है तो
तुम्हारे 90 साल के बच्चे को साथ में अडॉप्ट करना पड़ेगा।
बिल्कुल करोगे।
माथा खराब नहीं हुआ?
किस लम्हे ने थामी उंगली मेरी, फुसला के मुझको ले चला, नंगे पाँव दौड़ी आंखें मेरी, ख्वाबों की सारी बस्तियां, हर दूरियां हर फासले करीब हैं, इस उम्र की भी शख्सियत अजीब है। झीनी झीनी इन सांसों से बेचैनी सी आवाज।
All right, folks. Good morning. Is my audio and video okay?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, come on, camera. Up, 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 up. Let's see. Faces. Get this started in a bit. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Very good morning. That was not rhetorical.
Good morning.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Hi, Ruchika, are you here?
Hi Yogesh.
Anji, good morning. What is the number we're looking at?
We're looking at 21.
Okay.
Yeah, so quite many are yet to join.
Okay, 2 people in the waiting room. All right. Okay, so we'll close our eyes for a couple of moments, just as we come into this space to see where we are in our bodies and in our minds. In our hearts. All right. Whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes, come into the space. Okay, who do we have in the house? Hi Rishi, Apurva, Akshay, Harshil, Talha. Is that how you pronounce it? Talha? Rupal, Harshil, Ayushi, Kiran, Saksham, Rahul, Ishanya. Okay, we'll just quickly go around the room one time. If it's your first time here in these sessions, tell us your name, maybe where you're dialing in from. If you've been here before, you know the drill. We'll just get a sense of who's playing with us, and then we'll cut to the chase. Yeah, so just a quick bits of housekeeping. The idea is for us to have a conversation, for the running time of the workshop, or all of the workshop. The idea is to have a multilateral conversation, so it'd be useful for you to be on camera. So this is, in letter or in spirit, not really a webinar. This is a workshop. So yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rupal Sethi, and I'm dialing from Hyderabad.
Rupal's part of our PGP program.
Yeah.
Hi Rupal, good to see you.
Hi Yogesh, how are you? So I have been in touch with Yogesh for a long time and attended a couple of sessions in other programs.
Yeah.
Profession, I worked in banking and financial industry, total 17 years of experience. Native of Rajasthan, but now in Hyderabad for last 7 years.
All right. Okay, let's go. Thank you.
And Rishi here. I'm dialing in from Bangalore. I have been to a few workshops that Yogesh has been doing, Experiments of Love series, over the past, I think, 2 months or so. One of the reasons I am interested and inclined towards this particular workshop is I do realize that depending on the situation, I have to come up with new ways of thinking. And I also realize that sometimes you don't really have to rely on creating a new method. There are existing methods that you can potentially use. That's one. And the second thing is I often find myself in a space where there are a lot of emotions attached to a decision-making process. And how do you sort of detach from them and take the decision right for the act? That's something I'm curious about. So that's what brings me here.
Well, which is assuming that you want to take the emotions out of the equation. Right? We'll get there.
Yes.
We'll cut to the chase in just a minute. Okay.
Hello everyone, I'm Apurva and I'm currently in Delhi and I'm attending this workshop for the first time. And so I read the description on, I guess it was Facebook or on my email, I can't recall right now, but it just clicked with me and it seemed like something that I really wanted to experiment with. So so here I am.
All right.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Okay, so one moment, guys. The chat box doesn't count. The chat box doesn't count. Okay. So maybe then if you put it on the chat box, I will also facilitate the workshop on the chat box. Does that work? Yeah. Let's go. Akshay, was it you? Let's go.
Yeah. Hey, hi, good morning, everyone. This is Akshay from Chennai, and this is my first time, and also like the experiment space. So just here to experiment with myself and decisions which I'm taking. Thank you everyone for listening.
All right, Akshay. Welcome.
Yeah, hi, this is Akanksha. I'm also here for the first time and I got it from, I saw it somewhere in the email probably. So I have also come here to just experiment with and seeking the topic like the decision-making process. So I just wanted to, just someone said that how the emotions are related for the decision-making process and how to go about it. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Akanksha.
Hi, I'm Ayushi. I'm a final year student. So I'm dialing in from Mumbai. I came to know about this sessions about from my brother's friend, Gunjan. He's been attending these and he recommended for me. So I'm really interested because I've been attending such workshops, like not from you, but then I have been just exploring.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm excited for this one.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi, this is Kiran here.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm from Mumbai. This is my first time here. What I'm really looking at is I really like the topic of decision making and the cognitive biases. I've been a psychology student throughout. So I've done my master's in psychology, and I'm in that area of work. So it interests me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ishanya. I heard about this workshop through Rishi. I went on his Facebook page and registered for it. So decision making is something that I am not good at, and my parents constantly keep complaining about that to me. Like, you can't make up your mind, please do that fast. So I thought I could learn some really good insights that I can apply here. Thank you.
The joke is the new Ishanya. That's the missing bit that Rishi did not let you in on. Yeah, the joke is actually on everyone else, everyone who is in this room right now. Okay, welcome. Yeah, let's go.
Hi, I'm Rahul. I'm currently in Chandigarh and I know Yogesh for quite some time. I have never been a participant in any of his workshops, but we organized a few. He helped us with a few workshops in the past, specifically with storytelling and helping entrepreneurs to come up with their pitch decks. And now I finally was able to find some time from my work schedule, so I'm here to be part of his workshop now.
Okay. You look like you lost 5 years, man. Very cool to see you.
Yeah.
All the baby fats gone. Nice.
Hopefully. Still there.
Still there? Okay. Everybody had a go?
Hi. My name is Talha Chaudhary. I'm signing in from Bangalore. And this is my first time here. And I've heard of Game Changers for quite some time now, but this is the first time I'm actually doing something like this.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Saksham, and I was born and brought up in Delhi. And as to why I'm here, decision making has been quite an important point for me. The hard ones which I see are not between 5 and 6, it's between A and 5, which one to choose. So I guess I would like to improve on that or make a better decision with time.
Okay. Okay, I think everyone's had a go. Is that right? Beautiful. Welcome. Very, very quick bits of housekeeping. There isn't much by way of preamble. When we do this in person, this is spread over 8 or 9 hours, and we have, I think, roughly about 6 hours over the next 3 days. So we'll hit the ground running, hopefully. Just a few pieces. One is that does everybody know how to raise their hands on Zoom? The blue hand. Can you please raise your hand? Yeah, not the thumb, the blue hand. So the hand is essentially our segue as to whenever it is that you feel called to come into the conversation. There is no such time as a bad time. You can just quickly raise your hand whenever it is that you want to make a rebuttal, you want to ask for clarification, you want to share an anecdote, what have you. You want to do belly dancing. Everything goes. Nothing is going to be considered inappropriate or out of place. It is your job to say what you want to say, and it is for me to connect the dots. Is that okay? Yeah, so you can come in at any given point of time. That's one. Second, we'll have a break for about 10 minutes midway into the workshop. Do you know where your toilets are? Yes? Okay, great. And what else? What else? What else? Nothing really. I think we can, unless anyone has a question to ask, you can lower your hands now, and we'll get this started. Okay, question, and it kind of picks up on what a couple of us said just presently. Ceteris paribus. Do you know what is ceteris paribus? What is ceteris paribus?
All things considering.
Yes, other things remaining constant, ceteris paribus. I have two questions for you. Question number one, are we, and by we I mean the human condition, are we logical creatures with capacity for emotion, or are we emotional creatures with capacity for logic? Okay, that's question number one.
What was the second one? Are we?
Yeah, are we? So the first question is: are we emotional creatures with capacity for logic, or are we logical creatures with capacity for emotion? That's question number one. And question number two, which is that if indeed we are emotional creatures with capacity for logic, is that a bug or is that a feature? Is the question clear? Yeah. You would notice that if you're not on camera for more than 5 minutes and if it is not bandwidth, that's a problem, you'll get disconnected from the call automatically. It just happens. I'm telling you, I'm just putting it out there. Okay, let's go.
Yogesh, can you just repeat your last question, please? Sorry.
What did you hear, Akshay?
About the, is it a opportunity, I missed the last part of the question which you said that, is it a feature or is it a challenge?
Yeah, so is it a feature or is it a bug? So if we are emotional creatures with capacity for logic, if you think so, you may consider it otherwise. If you do think so, is that a bug or is that a feature? That's the question.
Thanks, Yogesh.
Okay, you're welcome. Yes, whenever you're ready, you can come in. Rishi, let's go.
I think humans are emotional creatures with capacity for logic, and I think the way I would support that argument is, in the hunter-gatherer phase, all we really had was our emotions to work with. So if I'm hungry and that's the emotion that's driving me, I'm going to go and hunt. If I see a lion, I'm going to get triggered by it in some form and I'm going to run away from it. And I think that's where the emotions come from. And I think it's a feature. It's not a bug. Just that somewhere along the lines we tried focusing too much on becoming more logical, and there's a lack of balance in that. And so that's what I think.
Absolutely. Okay. And also the small matter that emotion is considered a pariah in corporate boardrooms, right? To be emotional or to wear your emotion on your sleeve or to talk about feelings, let alone be sentimental, etc., is considered, if you have all of those, then, you're considered somewhat of a lesser mortal, right? So that. Apurva, let's go.
Yeah, I'm still, sort of contemplating on this. And so I have a feeling that, it also depends on the lens that you're looking at from. Like, in certain situations, yes, we can say that we are emotional creatures with a capacity of logic. But I mean, I'm confused about this. I'm not able to decide. I'm not able to make up my mind.
Okay.
Because at times there's, logic sort of, takes the front seat, and you're trying to when we're trying to be really practical or rational about, any life, we try to tell ourselves to keep the emotions aside, right?
Right.
It's always like a play of both the things going on, but yeah.
Is that a pressure cooker going off in the background?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, no worries. Okay. Thank you, Apurva. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to go.
Sure.
So basically, the answer to the first question would be like human beings are emotional creatures with a logical mindset or functioning, you can say. So basically, as to why, like, this has been a personal observation, or you can say an output of some contemplation that, like, it is not because the world has to survive that love is there. It is because love is there that the world survives. Because simply, like, if you are considering like maternal love, like, if she has to like the mother has to somehow save her children and like even sacrifice 5 or 6 other entities, like entities, human beings, she will happily do it. So like according to that, like the population will diminish and like the world will go extinct. But the thing is, like, love doesn't ask you to do that, and because of love, like population thrives or human being thrives. So that's why. And secondly, it's a like a good thing. As in you said, I guess the second question was like, is it a feature or a like being emotional? Is it a feature or like disadvantage? I would say it's a like superpower, because
it's a superpower.
In many a times, like when we basically take a logical decision, like at least the way I've seen with myself, like I have like in some point of my life, like I have had this equation, like I will do A, this will lead to B, this will lead to C, and blah blah blah, and then rocking the scene. But it goes haywire like that. Like you can't decide on the outcome just thinking logically, and that is what I've experienced.
Okay, so that's a little bit of Thanos, Dan Brown, all of it being thrown our way. Okay, excellent. Anyone else has a view on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see, this is as per my personal experience or human observation too, that in our day-to-day life, like if I see like which ice cream to eat, is it vanilla or chocolate? So I wouldn't make a decision. I'll simply go because I love chocolate ice cream. So, but this is a very smaller decisions of my life. But if you want to buy a house, or you want to take a loan, or whatever it is, for the bigger decisions in my life, the logical feature comes in. So emotion is obviously a feature, and a logical aspect of it, you cannot call it a bug, but yes, I think it proves that. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Okay, so consider this. Thank you very much. I just want to quickly share with you maybe 4 or 5 first principles as to why there is an inevitability to the decisions that we make, which is to say, in other words, just by a quick show of hands, how many people in this room routinely give themselves grief? How many of us routinely give ourselves grief for decisions that we've made in the past, and tell ourselves that we could have made different, better, more efficient decisions? Whether it's selecting commerce in 11th standard, whether it is marrying the wrong person, whether it's the wrong job, whatever. That's like nearly all of the room is done. And we want to be able to invest the next 15, 20 minutes just simply going back and forth on why there is an inevitability to the decisions that we make, right? Which is to say, again, in other words, if you could have, you would have. Let's say this together. If you could have,
If you could
have,
if you could have, you would have.
You would have.
Okay, and you don't need to take my word for it. I'm just going to throw some. Well, it's it's fashionable to say I'm going to throw some facts at you, but I'm going to throw a few things at you, and you decide for yourself if those appear as facts or as opinions. Okay, so first is that all things considered, we don't rise to the level of our thinking, we fall to the level of our habits.
Sorry, our?
Yeah, we don't rise to the level of our thinking, we fall to the level of our habits. Okay? In other words, we don't rise to the level of our prefrontal cortex, we fall to the level of our amygdala. What is the meaning of this? What is the prefrontal cortex and what is the amygdala? What does it mean to say we don't rise to the level of our thinking, we fall to the level of our habits? What does it mean?
Basically, we take decisions more based on our habits rather than giving it a proper think through.
Yeah.
And I think prefrontal and amygdala. Prefrontal is a thinking brain, like our brain has multiple centers. So prefrontal plays a I'm assuming that prefrontal plays a role in more into thinking, and amygdala is that basic part of our brain which evolved initially, which helped us in survival.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Rupal. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think the prefrontal cortex is it's right between both of your eyes, right over here. And that's when you're focusing and that's when you're actually thinking. And otherwise your mind goes in autopilot mode, which is habits, which is regular routine work. So regularly whatever you do, and like you're not doing anything of change.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the context of decision making, what we're trying to unravel is that when you say you don't rise to the level of your thinking, but you fall to the level of your habits, what are we trying to say?
So, in my experience, so if I have been through a situation numerous times, and the situation comes again, I would think less at the very time, given, okay, this is something which I have faced earlier, this is happening now, this is what I did earlier, this is what I'll do now.
Okay. Sure, thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let me ask you another question, and we'll circle back to this and close the loop. The world that we live in, and the one that we breathe in, and the one that we work in, and the one where we go about our activities in, that world, is that a world laden with risk, or is that a world laden with uncertainty? Do we live in a risky world, or do we live in an uncertain world?
Certainty.
Uncertain.
Uncertain world.
Uncertain world. Okay. What is the difference between risk and uncertainty? How do you define risk? How do you define uncertainty?
Yeah. So risk, I think we know that something is going to happen and we have to deal with it. We don't know when the risk will come. There are uncertain risks also. I mean, not in that way, but we know that this can happen. This moment can come. Sure. And uncertainty is something we don't know. We don't know about the pandemic. We didn't know that it has to come. So yeah, so the difference lies there.
Right. So risk is what you have in a casino in Las Vegas when you're playing blackjack or Russian roulette, etc. So essentially risk is where past performance can be used to model present behavior and make future predictions. Risk is where you have odds. Are you with me? Yes? Yeah?
I didn't hear the last line. Risk is when you have?
When you know what the odds are.
Okay, the odds. Okay.
Yeah, when there are odds. So the odds may be 1 to 100, 1 to 10, 1 in 2, 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million. Doesn't matter. But there are odds. That's when you have risk. Uncertainty is where, and this might be a complex thing to learn, so stay with me and I'll repeat if needed. Uncertainty is where the number of factors at play themselves are unknown or unknowable or infinite, let alone for those factors to be designed or accounted for, and then let alone for those factors for some factors to be quarantined and isolated. Are you with me?
In other words, can I say risk is calculated and uncertainty is not?
Cannot be.
Yeah, cannot be.
Cannot be.
Cannot be, yeah. That's
Okay, so what we are trying to get at in the context of the conversation that we're having is that, for instance, if you go to the stock market, is that a place laden with risk or is that a place laden with uncertainty?
Uncertainty.
Risk.
Who says risk? Rahul? Anyone else? Talha? Okay.
Both.
Akshay? Okay. Why is it a place with? So okay. So for those of you saying both, I have a question. Can you have diabetes and not have diabetes at the same time?
No.
No, you can't. So for those of you saying risk, why risk?
You take calculative decisions
Calculative.
when you're investing in a stock market.
Okay.
It's a risk because we know already that the share market operates up and down. It doesn't operate on my wishes. I can lose money and I can win money. It's like both. I know it already. So it's very calculative and it's a decision that I am taking.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that maybe that's why it's a risk for me.
Okay. Rishi?
I actually disagree with Deepthi. I feel stock markets are a place where it's full of uncertainty. The two things that I think I know is the two factors which are clear in the variety of uncertain things is that I can win money and I can lose money. But fundamentally, the philosophy behind it is completely run on human emotions. If I'm feeling a certain way about a certain company, I'm going to buy more stocks. And if I'm not going to buy more stocks. Same is what I understand from what futures and trading is.
Yeah.
Crude oil suddenly goes to -$1 in futures and trading. It again works on human feelings. And so I think it's a very uncertain place. Just that we think it's risky, but it's actually uncertain.
Thank you very much. All right. Uncertainty packaged as risk is a 6 trillion business annually. Uncertainty packaged as risk is a 6 trillion business annually, which is to say there are multiple systems colliding and colluding to make you believe that something can be predicted. So, okay, so fundamentally, just to kind of close the loop on the stock market and the other kites that are flying in the air. If you go to your stock market broker or your analyst, and if you ask him, why did the price of Infosys go up this morning? Will he give you scientific, legitimate, financially sound reasons? PE ratio, ye ho gaya, iska ho gaya, wo ho gaya. That is the reason the price went up. Yes.
Not at all.
Yes, he'll give you scientific, legitimate reasons. Well, the ones at least they will sound intelligent. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is his
If
business.
the price of Infosys goes down, he or she will give you scientific, legitimate, financial reasons as to why the price went down. Is that right? And you're like, oh man, that makes sense. However, if you ask your stock market broker, boss, what will be the price tomorrow? Will you be able to make a prediction? No, and therefore uncertainty. Because when there is uncertainty, you will find that prediction is hard, hindsight is not. Prediction is hard. What is not?
Hindsight.
Hindsight. What is hindsight?
Looking in the back.
When you look back. So whenever you make a decision, so this is the pot at the end of this is the rainbow. This is the pot of the gold at the end of the rainbow, which is to say that whenever you make a decision, whether it's a small decision or a big decision, there is what you have, which is known as information asymmetry. What is information asymmetry?
You can't have perfect information.
You do not have perfect information. Now, this perfect information starts coming to you when? The moment you make
decision.
The decision. And then the brain has what is known as a sleight of hand and makes you believe, hey, you know what? You should have known better. You should have seen this coming. How do you take commerce? How do you manage this person? Did you not know this? Etc., 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 etc. The fact of the matter is that the number of factors at play itself is unknowable. For instance, you don't need to look beyond the fact that today the economy is in the toilet. We're in the midst of a pandemic that we don't know, what's going to happen. People have lost jobs. People are losing lives. The stock market has done what in the last 3 months?
Been very, very volatile and made.
No. Don't use the word volatile. Don't use the word. What has the stock market done in the last 3 months?
From 7,500, it has gone to 11,500.
11,000.
It's flying like a kite.
It's flying like a kite. Okay, a horse on steroids wouldn't fly the way the stock market is. So please understand, I have nothing against the stock market. We'll talk a bunch about it when we talk about cognitive biases. The fact is, this is fundamentally unpredictable. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Fundamentally unpredictable. Yes. But the moment you call the bluff on it, what goes out of business? What goes out of business?
The business itself?
The business goes out of business. That's true.
Stock market still stays in its place.
Yeah. So anyway, the point is, what we're trying to say is that there is very, very, very good reason why we make the decisions that we do. I will go so far as to say that any paradigm of decision making that is not founded or based on empathy for the self, you can reject it squarely. Are you with me? This is not to say that decision making cannot be improved. Of course it can be, and hopefully we'll talk about it. And yet there is a certain degree of inevitability to the decisions that we make. Okay, so that's one. Second, in general, we are better at defending decisions than we are at making them. Okay, we are better at defending decisions, which is and we're making them, which is to say, in other words, when we are making a decision, a number of things, like so for instance, you might have bought a car which was the color black, and you did not even think twice about it. But now your son or your friend or your colleague comes and asks, "Yaar, ye gaadi kali wali kyun li?" And suddenly, if you don't give him 3 reasons, you'll feel impotent. And then you make up those reasons now, so you can tell that person as to, oh, you know what, black, I don't need to clean it so much, etc., 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 etc. Okay, so that's second.
Could you tell the first reason again?
Sorry?
Could you tell the first point again? I didn't get that.
Which point?
If the decision that we make do not empathize with our
Yeah. So I'm saying that the invitation is that if you find, so here is the thing, right? The forces of the world, Ishanya, are invested in wanting to make you believe that you could have acted differently in the past, so that you continue to feel inadequate in the present, so that you can give them money until Armageddon comes. Are you with me? Is that making sense? Yeah. And what we are saying is that there is an inevitability to the decisions that you make today. Right? In other words, if you could have made a different decision, you would have.
फोन की बैटरी खत्म हो गई.
फोन की बैटरी खत्म हो गई, क्या करें बताओ भी.
और क्या करें?
So, so to be able to base our decision making in the precept that there is very, very good reasons why we do what we do, and when you come from there, then what happens is you don't create violence for yourself. Are you with me? Yeah. So that's one. Here's the other thing. Okay, a lot of people come into this workshop thinking this will help them make better decisions, and here's something I feel called to share with you, and maybe it'll land better if we say this together. So you can unmute your mics. Okay, so we can say this together. An unwillingness to commit yourself. Let's say this.
An unwillingness to commit yourself
Cannot be compensated for.
Cannot
be compensated for
by learning fancy decision-making frameworks and tools and techniques.
by learning fancy decision-making tools and techniques.
Okay. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So an unwillingness to commit is a whole different problem. It's like for us, right? I mean, most of us in this room are millennials or post-millennials. This is in our DNA. And the reason this is in our DNA is because no generation in the history of humankind has had to deal with what at this level. What is the what? What is the dash then?
Uncertainty?
We spoke about uncertainty, has had to deal with 6-letter word. What has no generation, I mean, every generation believes that they're facing this for the first time, but about this, we can be certain. What has no generation before us had to deal with at this level? 6-letter word. Very simple word, we use it multiple times in a day. Starts with a C, ends with an E.
C and?
C and E. What? No? अभी ब्रेक देगा तुम लोग को 10 मिनट में जाके चाय कॉफी उठा के लेके आओ. C and E, it's a 6-letter word. Come on.
Change. I don't know, but it does not fit what you said.
One more word, please.
One more letter.
Oh, somebody.
Harshil is saying confused, which is a good option. I would say we get confused because of this. So this is the effect. That is the cause. No generation in humankind has had to deal with the amount of CH.
I think what Apurva said, change.
Change also is a good word. Okay, so change, of course, that is true, and confuse is also true. But because I'm the facilitator, I don't know the word in my mind is the word you got.
I want to go with chaos, but it doesn't fit.
Chaos doesn't fit, but it doesn't rhyme with this word in mind that I have received, but it is close enough. Dude, I'm saying C, H, and E. Now you have only 3 letters in between. C, H, and E. All of you are going to have a duh moment when I reveal this. Choice.
Oh.
Okay, no generation before us has had to deal with this kind of choice, and therefore, and that is leading to the kind of commitment issues that we have. Anyway, the point being that an unwillingness to commit cannot be solved for by learning superior decision-making frameworks or techniques or tools. Okay? And the last one that I wanted to share with you before we kind of shift gears and talk about what are some heuristics that can be used to improve decision. What is the meaning of heuristics? When there is risk, you can use formulas. Okay, but when you have uncertainty, you have to use heuristics. What is the meaning of heuristics? Have you heard of the word heuristics? Yeah, Rishi? Yeah.
So I actually raised hand for a question. I'll come back to
something.
it.
Yeah.
I think heuristics is a learned truth from understanding of a situation in some way.
Yes.
If cards are being dealt a certain way, and I see that every third card is coming up to be a red card, I can make that a heuristic in that particular context.
Beautiful.
If at a work environment, if certain kind of behaviors are being rewarded and others are not, in that context, I can be like, oh, if I do these 3-4 things, maybe I will get rewarded too. So within a context, it's a learned.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just stay with what you wanted to say. I'll give you a quick example of a heuristic. How many of us know of the Pareto principle? The 80-20 rule?
The 80-20 rule.
Yeah. So for instance, if you see, you can put 80-20 rule as a wedge nearly anywhere in life, and it will tell you the truth about the situation. So for instance, 80% of the batsmen score 20% of the runs, 20% of the batsmen score 80% of the runs, 20% of the people do 80% of the work, 20% of people do 80% of the travel, 80% of people have 20% of the wealth, etc., 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 etc. You can plug and play the Pareto principle anywhere, and it will begin 20% of the customers give 80% of the problems, 20% of the customers give 80% of the profit, etc., 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 etc. It just fits in everywhere. So, there are heuristics that one can use to kind of make better decisions. We'll talk about that. Yes, Rishi, you want to say something? Let's go.
My question earlier was, is it the number of choices that's the problem, or is it the lack of commitment which is the problem? That's one. Because and in addition to that, what I have noticed is, especially in my parents' generation, when the number of options wasn't that many, but there were people who were committed to taking decisions, who can make a commitment, they still don't suffer.
Yeah.
But the people who couldn't make decisions then suffer now. So what I'm trying to wrap my head around is the number of choices a problem, or is it the lack of commitment which creates the suffering?
Yeah. Okay, so I think at a superficial level, you would say it is the number of choices. Okay, I think at a deeper level and almost a spiritual level, I think it's the illusion of free will. Okay, so if you look at the story of humanity in the last 300 or 400 years, Rishi, and everyone else, and you're speaking to earlier about evolution and hunter-gatherers, etc. The story of humankind in the last 300 or 400 years, and this is not to say, this is not a blistering tirade against capitalism or anything, is really about the illusion of control. Okay, so the fact is that, for instance, if you notice, like 30 years or 40 years back, if there was a marriage, and if, let's say, for instance, if there was on the day of the marriage, if the weather gods decided to play truant, and if it started raining in the mandap, there was nothing that you could do because most weddings were outdoors, right? So you would like, ye Bhagwan ki yehi ichha hai, right? Cut to today, what we have is we have indoor halls, and then we said, okay, so now we're going to have indoor halls, it's going to get hot, we're going to have air conditioners. So until the beginning of the year, we said nothing can come between me and my dream wedding as long as I have money and resources and have imagination. And suddenly you have something like a pandemic, which is to say that, you know, you can have a room and you can have air conditioner and you can have everything, but there's a new joker in the pack. So the illusion of control, the illusion of free will makes you believe that you can make choices which are different. And I mean, all of this kind of, so it's like a hydra-headed beast, right? Which is why, again, you go and you give yourself grief over decisions that you could have made in the past. As against earlier, where you experienced a certain degree of fatality to the decisions that you made. Okay, so I don't know if we spoke about this in another workshop, but I don't think anybody else must have heard it. So I'll say it I'll say it all the same. You know, one of the big differences in the way lettered people and unlettered people approach life is how they will talk about their experiences, right? So like if you have literate people, educated people talk about life and life choices and decisions, they say, I was born, I went to school, I went to college, I took a job, I got married, I had kids, right? If you go to a village and if you talk to an unlettered person, he or she would likely frame this conversation as, पहले हमारा जन्म हुआ, फिर हम स्कूल गए, फिर कॉलेज गए, फिर शादी हो गई, फिर बच्चा हो गया. What is the difference between these two precepts? What do you find as the fundamental difference in these two? Saksham?
There is no I in the second one.
Which means what?
Like the degree of control is outside in the second one, and
yes, the locus of control and the acceptance of the locus of control as something that is outside of yourself, and there's surrender to that, there's awareness of it. And you will notice that when you have that, you go from knowing to knowledge, which is where again heuristics comes from. So the two examples that Rishi gave, very beautiful examples, which are landed and rooted in knowing, whereas books are rooted in what? Knowledge. Okay, and there are many examples of this. So for instance, if you notice, if you ever have read the New York Times or the Guardian, the New Yorker, Washington Post, fantastic publications, but typically when they have to report on India or on the subcontinent or on the Middle East or on China, you will notice that one of the reporters comes in, spends a little bit of time, and you would see that that person unwittingly ends up using the mental models that they have from their culture and their upbringing to report on stories from this country. Are you with me? Is that making sense? That is trying to start from knowledge and going to knowing. That is, oh my God, that is an exercise fraught with lots and lots of places where you can slip. Because when you have knowledge, knowledge teaches you to not have what in the game?
Not skin in the game.
Yeah, knowledge teaches you to not have skin in the game. So you are free. You feel that you can look at the world from your window and make decisions or make sense, etc., etc., etc. However, when you see that somebody has spent a year, 2 years, 3 years marinating in this country, just walking by streets, going to the villages, talking to people, etc. When they report then on what is happening in the country or on a political issue or on a business issue. That is landed, that is rooted in knowing, and that transfers far more seamlessly into knowledge. Knowing transfers into knowledge. Are you with me? Yeah. And today, and this is again just to close the loop on what the question that Rishi is asking. And today, for a lot of us, are for reasons in the way the world is designed, because there's a focus on formal education, there's not so much a focus on vocational and apprenticeship, etc. For a number of reasons, the way the world is structured and where the world is going, there is a premium on knowledge. Is that right? And because knowledge stops you from having skin in the game, you really never get to knowing. And therefore, and that explains all the different things that is happening in the world. That is why there's a person who's selling uncertainty as risk, and there's a person who is buying uncertainty as risk. Right? Because both of these creatures have an illusion of control. Both of these creatures have an illusion of free will. All right? So that. Okay, great. What we'll do is we'll take a break for 10 minutes. On the other side, we'll deal with two things. We'll deal with some heuristics of decision making, and we'll open up maybe one or two of the cognitive biases for today. And then we'll deal with maybe 4 or 5 others tomorrow, and then we'll look at mental models. Okay? I hope you're having fun this morning. I'll see you in 10 minutes, 9:05. Thank you very much. All right, we back. Ta-da-ta-ta. Harshil, are you feeling comfortable without the mic? Are you here? Hmm. Okay, great. So, just for my understanding and to know where we want to pitch our conversation today, I'd like to know from all of us as to where we are vis-a-vis cognitive biases and mental models. So I think it can be like one of three places broadly. So how many people in the room are in a space where they know their confirmation bias from their backfire effect? They know the general idea of what a mental model is, a cognitive bias is. They've read Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, maybe, etc., etc. Is anyone there? Okay, Rishi, great, thank you. How many people are at a level where किताब है Kindle पे या घर पे पढ़ा है किताब पर अभी तक खोला नहीं है इसको, एक दो टेड टॉक भी खोला था, फिर पढ़ा, देखा, सुना, लेकिन कुछ याद नहीं. Anyone there? Oh. And who is that? ये क्या बोल रहे हो भाई? Cognitive bias होता क्या है? ये मतलब what are you even talking? Am I in the wrong room? Okay. We'll see. Okay, great. So one of, before we get to the cognitive biases, just a few quick heuristics around decision making. In fact, I'll give you all three at one time, and then we'll play with all of them. Okay. So the way to account for the choice paralysis and the complexity, etc., 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 is to look at this from three lenses. Okay. Make fewer decisions, make meta decisions, and make narrow decisions. Okay. So one of the ways in which you kind of deal with this complexity of choice and deal for the unwillingness sometimes, and and the fact that so one other thing, right? One of the other reasons why decision making, and again this is a paradigm that is rooted in empathy. One of the reasons it is so tremendously difficult for our generation and definitely every generation that's going to come after us to make decisions is because our brains have been hacked into. Our dopamine receptors are out of whack. There's a structural change in the way that the brain, a brain functions, right? So again, this is not to absolve personal responsibility, but I'm saying that we are technology, and this is to say that technology has evolved faster than human beings have. Is that true? Yeah, and therefore some of these challenges. Anyway, so we'll talk about these three precepts, which is making fewer decisions, making narrow decisions, and making meta decisions. Okay, so what does this mean? You would notice that giving up on something 100% is easier than giving up on something 80%. Are you with me? What does it mean to give something up 100% versus giving something up 80%? What does it mean? Rupal?
Yeah, so once you give up something 100%, you cut yourself from that. Then it's kind of over.
Yes.
When you are in like 80-20, still there is something always remaining, and then again you go back, you start thinking again that decisions and
so the cognitive load is higher, and this cognitive load will now translate into you having to make more decisions.
Yes.
So for instance, if you're trying to get on a healthy diet, let's say if you're trying to take out sugar from your diet, okay, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to try and use that word that everyone tries to use, moderation. I'm going to moderate my consumption. Okay? So you wake up in the morning, okay, and please understand this. Please understand this. I find this this first principle very empowering. You know, all of us are credited with a certain amount of decision-making energy when we wake up in the morning. Okay, and this decision-making energy is agnostic of where you use it to make decisions. Which is to say, if you're going to use decision-making energy to decide on what is going to come in front of you on the breakfast table and the lunch table, if you're going to use that decision-making energy to decide what are the clothes that you're going to wear, etc., etc., etc. This is not to say that one is better than the other. It is the same decision-making energy that you're going to use to decide which is the new market that you want to explore for your startup or which career options that you should be looking at. Are you with me? The decision-making energy that you use remains exactly the same and it is finite. Okay? Which is why you would notice that some people around the world, some famous people and also other people, like what's common to Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Barack Obama, Michael Dell, other than the fact that they may be rich, famous, and criminal. Some of them are now. But what is common to these people?
Same dress, same dress.
Same clothes every day. They want to take that complexity out of the equation. Okay. Now, imagine you're trying to get on a healthier diet. Okay. So in the morning, when your decision-making energy is at its peak, it is easy for you to say no to sugar. Is that correct? So in the morning, okay, no cereal, fantastic. You get to the office, 11 a.m., a friend whose friend went to Turkey, got some baklava, is offering you baklava, and you're like, oh, this looks great. And yet right now there is still some decision-making energy left, and you say, okay, no, thank you very much. Okay. 5 o'clock in the evening at the office cafeteria, there is an apple strudel, apple cake. Looks very tempting, nearly gave up, and yet there is some fuel left in the tank. You manage to say no to it. Now you are F-I-G-H-T-I-N-G. You are really fighting. Okay. And you go back home and you open the refrigerator and there is the cake from last week's birthday party. What do?
Take a bite.
You stuff
Eat the entire cake.
You eat the entire cake. Thank you very much. You stuff your face in. And when you do that, you also say, I deserve this. I have earned it. Okay, so trying to give up something 80% or 60% or 70% is counterintuitive, is also counterproductive, and you feel exhausted and defeated at the same time. Right? So making fewer decisions and making meta decisions. Okay. The other thing is about making narrow decisions, which is to say that when you want to change something, your best shot typically is to take the smallest atom of behavior and then try to change it. In other words, for example, if you want, let's say for instance, the new year is going to be around the corner very quickly. And let's say if you want to make 3 New Year resolutions, I'm going to wake up on time, I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm going to eat healthy food, right? What is likely to happen by the 15th of January?
You give up.
Okay.
You fall back to your original habits.
You go back to your original habits. Saksham?
Yeah, like it will get lost. People will fall back to their original habits.
Yeah, and when you do go back to the original habit, it is likely that you're going to put it down to the fact that these things do not work as much as the fact that that you wouldn't do it. And also the fact there's a lot of shaming that goes around. One of the most toxic statements ever made is that statement, which is where there is a will, there is a
way.
There is a way.
And do you know why that is toxic?
We heavily rely on will.
Sorry. One at a time. Yeah, Saksham and then Rishi. Let's go.
Because then we tend to heavily rely on will rather than habits.
Okay, all right, yeah. And Rishi?
And it makes a mockery out of the person and also blames the person, saying, hey, you don't even have enough will to actually go through all the way.
Thank you. So it is a subliminal, subtle form of victim shaming. I can give you an example of this. 2 years back, we were working with drug addicts at a Hawaiian prison, and I remember on the first day, on the first session, I went inside the room and I asked them a question: how many of us want to be recognized for the fact that we're trying really, really hard to kick this habit? And nearly all the hands went up, and even while they were going up, some of the hands went down and they collapsed and they had a breakdown. They started, like, just choicelessly, tears started rolling down because nobody had even asked them that question until then. Everybody put it down to the fact that if you tried hard enough, you would have kicked it by now. Okay. Anyway, so the idea about narrow stream of behavior, about making a narrow habit, is that, back to our gym example and waking up, what you would notice is that if you say, forget the gym, forget what I'm eating, I simply want to wake up on time. Okay. And if you do that, what happens if you do that for enough number of days? Just simply wake up and do nothing.
Maybe you may use it for something. I mean, if you are getting up on time, maybe if you getting up at 6 a.m., you have time, maybe you will use it for exercise or walking or something. And plus, if you wake up every day at 6, you know that, okay, I can do it. Like,
yeah. Okay. Rishi?
I was just going to say the second part of what Rupal said. It makes you feel good about doing something right, and that reinforces a will to try something else eventually.
Yes, thank you. And again, this is one of the structural things that has happened to the brain. For a long time, the human mind was not evolved to value gratification, instant gratification, as much as it values it today. Are you with me? And we can either keep saying, take that instant gratification out, or just wake up to the reality that this is the new reality. And now you need to evolve to this. Okay. I'll give you an example of something that happens with me a lot. So if after the week on a Saturday morning, if I set myself a goal post of having to go to the supermarket, which between me and the supermarket stands having to get up, take a bath, and then go there, I tend to keep postponing it. But if I relieve myself out of the pressure of going to the supermarket and I say, okay, you know what? Forget anything else. Okay, just don't do anything. Just take a bath. Take a bath. And the act of taking a bath does what?
Kickstarts.
Primes you. Then going to the supermarket does not sound like a charade. Are you with me? So being able to make narrow, bite-sized decisions and then watch them, so in behavioral science, we also call this as the keystone habit. The habit on which other changes in habit are predicated. So you would notice that, which is why, so for instance, it's a cliche to say that waking up at 5 a.m. changes your life. But I can tell you this, if I'm right now talking to you also, and this is a moment of vulnerability for me, if I'm talking to you also, it is because 7 years back, I decided to wake up simply at 5 a.m. And that 5 a.m. then translated into being able to work on a body that had given up on me, then that energy that I got in the gym and rehabilitation gave me the focus and the energy and the enthusiasm that I needed to be able to focus on what I really wanted to do, etc., 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 etc. But it all just simply started because I said I want to be able to wake up at 5 and then do nothing. Right? So it is a cliche, but it is also true that just that small, minute, narrow change in behavior changes everything. Okay, so a good metaphor, a good analogy is like, how much yogurt do you need to actually make so much yogurt? How much yogurt do you need? Only this much yogurt. Yeah, and a lot of these things are not so linear. It may not, you may, I mean, is there anything in this amount of yogurt that tells you that it can create this amount of yogurt? There's nothing there, right? Like if you use your logical brain, it makes no sense. Is that correct? So that's something you want to be able to consider. So make fewer decisions, make narrow decisions, and what was the third one? Make meta. What is the meaning of meta decisions?
Is it more
Ishani?
intuitive? Is it more intuitive decision?
How do you mean?
Something that you just feel you can do. You don't really logically know it, but you just feel it.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Ishani. Meta decisions. What do you mean meta decisions?
Something which will like affect other decisions. As in waking up at 5 will like lead to a better state of mind and you can make better decisions.
Okay, so a meta decision is that decision which makes a lot of other micro decisions redundant. Okay, so you don't need to make those micro decisions when you make meta decisions, and just be able to being able to make those decisions. All right. Okay. So we're going to move into looking at a couple of cognitive biases today. Any questions so far? Anything? Any reflections? Not just questions. Anything that you want to offer as to where you are? I'd like to hear some voices in the room. Saksham, let's go.
I had this question like after the break that like you said, knowledge leads to us not having skin in the game. And thus not having skin leads to not knowing. So basically, should we try actively to get knowledge? Like, should we try avoiding to get knowledge?
It's a great question. Let's see where the room is on it. Let's have the room weigh in on this. What do you guys think? Anyone wants to share their reflection? Should you actively stay away from seeking too much knowledge, too much content? Rishi, let's go.
I think you shouldn't. I think it's good to, for instance, read about stock markets or about health and what works and what doesn't. But you have to go into knowing with awareness that whatever I know is just like the knowledge I've picked up from another source. But I will have to contextualize it for my own self and eventually also do it. Just reading a book on health, for instance, is not going to be enough to make a healthy habit change. Or just reading about healthier foods will not enable you to really do something about it. So there is an action required. You have to put a skin in the game there, and only then will you be able to, make something. So going with the awareness will help. Otherwise, you just become an armchair everything, armchair activist, armchair investor, armchair whatever else.
Okay, beautiful. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would put in a context of food and digestive system. Right, it depends on individual that what's your digestive system, what's your capacity to learn, unlearn, reflect, put into context, and experiment with yourself. And like it's as simple as the amount of food you can digest or you can eat, and it depends from individual to individual. So I would put rather in that.
Okay. So it's dependent on the individual. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, so Saksham, where I stand on this is that minus skin in the game, knowledge can be harmful. Okay, so long as you have skin in the game, knowledge can be a starting point, and from what that will do is, because you have skin in the game, you will account for the course corrections automatically. All right. So the crucial bit is to understand: do you have skin in the game? Are you also, and what okay? So in other words, what does it mean to have skin in the game? What is the definition of whether you have skin in the game or not have skin in the game?
Like you have stakes in it, like as in
you have something
you are
to
just
lose.
not, yeah, you have something to lose. You are not just a bystander and commenting, hey, do this, do that.
Yes. How many of you understand Urdu? Talha, thoda, Rishi.
I'd like to understand more.
You like to understand more, okay? So just something came to mind about skin in the game and being a bystander, especially. There's a couple of lines, which is "ए मौजे बला उनको भी जरा दो चार थपेले हल्के से." You hear it? You get that? ए मौजे बला उनको भी जरा दो चार थपेले हल्के से, कुछ लोग अभी तक साहिल से तूफान का नजारा करते हैं.
This is more of Hyderabadi.
Huh?
This is more of Hyderabadi than Urdu.
हैदराबादी है क्या? मौजे बला तो उर्दू है, साहिल उर्दू
नहीं,
है.
उर्दू ही है.
उर्दू ही है.
Share proper
But it did sound like a personal attack.
Are you saying Hyderabad is known for personal attacks?
Please translate.
Sorry? Oh, does somebody need translation? Who needs
Yeah.
translation?
I need it.
Translate.
चलो करो कोई ऋषि करो, translate करो.
I'm not entirely sure what Mojibala means, but it says that please shake up the others a little bit. Thapela is to just shake them up, because there are a few out there who still stand at the shore and experience a storm from far away without actually ever going in it.
Fantastic.
So the powers that be. So a Mauji Bala is the powers that be. Oh, powers that be, right? Please shake them a little bit. Those who are standing on the shore and looking at the storm and commenting. Okay. Great. I'm just going to fire up our screen. Let me know if you can see. Are you able to see the screen? Great. So,
Yeah.
question: what is a cognitive bias? What is a cognitive bias? Remember, if you're on a laptop, you can see the screen and the video feed simultaneously. If you're on a mobile phone, then you'll have to choose between one of the two. But if you're on a laptop or a desktop, you need to toggle with your settings on the top of the screen, and you can see both. Yeah. What's a cognitive bias, folks? No one?
I think it's a bias that is picked up from culture and learned without actively wanting to try to learn it.
Okay. So essentially, thank you, Rishi. Essentially, the simplest way to understand a cognitive bias is a gap in thinking. Quite simply, a gap. If you want to apply judgment to it, you would say it's an error. But at a neutral level, it is essentially a gap. Okay. Now this gap appears for multiple reasons. The gap appears because there is too much information, there is too little time. Sorry. There is too much information, there is too little time, there is pressure on attention spans, etc., etc., etc. And yet all of those are superficial reasons. The fundamental reason why we why we are prone to cognitive biases is because human beings are what making machines?
Meaning.
Thank you very much. We are meaning making machines. And Kiran, what does it mean therefore? What does it mean to be a meaning making machine now that I have you?
That we keep making meanings out of anything. We try, whatever happens in our life, it means something.
And therefore, what happens?
And we make decisions basis that.
And therefore, what happens?
We have situations and results basis those interpretations that we have.
Yeah, and therefore we sometimes superimpose our perception on the existential nature of reality. There is such a thing called reality and there's such a thing called perception.
Yeah.
Right? And really
we start thinking our viewpoint as a reality basically.
Exactly, thank you very much. Right? And it is informed by, of course, past experiences, cultural standpoint, like somebody said, too much time, too little time, many things to do, but fundamentally because we are meaning making machines. Okay? So what we are going to do is we will try and unravel, there are hundreds of biases, we'll try and unravel those that for a lot of us are nearly everyday occurrences, everyday happenings. Okay? So here we go. Pa, 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 pa. Pa, pa, pa. How many of you are experiencing FOMO as I'm moving through the slides? Like, ये क्या है? ये क्या है? ये क्यों नहीं बता रहा? ये क्यों नहीं बता रहा? Okay, great. So cognitive bias, consistent gap or error in thinking. We are identifying patterns and mental shortcuts. There's actually a use case. The reason we develop patterns is because, you know, when there is a fight or flight situation, and you don't want to, you know, come to your prefrontal cortex, so there's a use case. But what happens is that sometimes we kind of take it beyond the use case and start looking at reality with a certain mindset or perception. What we're really trying to do is expand self-awareness, and by expanding self-awareness, hopefully be able to improve the quality of decisions. And of course, there's a business use case for it. If you've seen, I think there's a recent movie called The Social Dilemma, which talks about how you hack into the pattern of thinking and influence people. Okay, so the first of the biases that we want to talk about is what's known as the survivorship bias. Rampant in how we make sense of the world on a minute-to-minute, moment-to-moment basis. Does somebody want to read out the statements? So how many statements are there on the slide? There's 3 of them. So just, you know, we can just go around the room. Any 3 of us can choose to volunteer, read out the statements, and then we'll unpack it. That's good. Talha, let's go. First one.
The error of identifying, focusing, or concentrating on the people or things that succeed or survive to the exclusion of those that did not.
Okay. Next.
Get disproportionately influenced by past successes while ignoring previous failures.
Okay.
Absence of proof is not proof of absence.
Okay. Brilliant. Yeah, you're regretting signing up for the 8 AM course now, didn't you? Good. What is the meaning of absence of proof not being proof of absence? if there is no blood in the room that you're sitting in right now, can we conclusively say there was a murder, that a murder did not take place last night?
No.
No, you can't, right? So absence of proof is not proof of absence. We'll come to that. So remember we spoke about the stock market, correct? So question, how many of us invest in mutual funds? Okay, so this can cut really close to the bone for a lot of us. Why do we invest in mutual funds? What is the reason that you give yourself? Go ahead.
Well, it is said that it is safer than investing in stocks and trading.
Okay.
And that if you stick into it long enough, you will see good returns.
Okay, yes. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so none of what I'm going to tell you are things that I'm making up. You know, the stuff on this is very, very easily available. So you can, you know, if you spend 10 minutes after our conversation, you'll be able to see what we're trying to point at. So when a mutual fund tells you that a certain, like let's say Motilal Oswal, DSP, BlackRock, BNP Paribas, whoever else, tells you that a certain fund has given 10%, 12%, 14% CAGR over 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, what are they telling you and what are they not telling you?
So what they are telling is that if you have invested, I mean, whatever money they invested 10 years back, it has grown by whatever percent they are saying.
Okay. So I'm assuming all of that is true. So I'm not even saying, you know, what is fudge and so this is true. Okay, great. So this is what they're saying. What are they not telling you?
There are a lot of things like in between the years, there can be a lot of ups and downs. There can be a lot of scheme churn.
Okay, sure. Okay, fair enough. That's par for the course. But what are they actively not telling you? And they cannot even be said that they are lying. But what are they not telling you?
That if you had invested, suppose if you are investing in a portfolio or you are investing in index, you would also make some money as per the index return.
Okay. What are they not telling you? Thank you, Rupal.
I'm getting into technicalities.
Sure, sure. What are they not telling you? What they are not telling you is that when they started, there were 15 schemes. Are you with me? And this is the one that has what?
Worked for them.
This is the one that has survived. So the odds have changed immediately. Are you with me?
Yes.
So let's say, for instance, if I have 15 children, okay, and one of them becomes a doctor after 15 years, I can tell you that my child is a come on.
Smart child.
Prodigy.
My child is a doctor. He's a smart child. Okay, and that is true. Absolutely. He will become a doctor. What am I not telling you?
About the other 14.
About what happened to the other 14? Okay. So the odd. So basically, okay, I'm going to simplify this. What we're really trying to say is that the odd is not 1 out of 1. The odd is 1 out of
15.
15. And is that significantly different? 1 out of 1 and 1 out of 15? Yeah. So that's one. Okay. Okay. So that's one. Okay. But we're just getting started. This is not even foreplay. Second, $50 to 80% of all mutual funds anywhere in the world, and there's a lot of empirical research and data on this, 50 to 80% of all mutual funds anywhere in the world underperform what?
Index.
the index that they are based on. Are you with me? Do you understand
Sorry,
the index?
Yogesh, I had no idea. I have no idea what index means.
Sure. So the Nifty is an index. The Sensex is an index. So the Sensex has got 30. The Sensex has got 30 scripts. Okay. The Nifty has got 50 scripts. And then there's there's a bank index. There's an oil index. There's a gas index, etc., etc. And when you buy into a mutual fund, they tell you whether they're a small cap, they're a mid cap, they're a large cap. Yes. And therefore, they are benchmarking themselves against the index. And you will notice that 50 to 80% of mutual funds underperform the what? The benchmark index. Are you with me? Okay, so that's point number 2. And point number 3, and be careful, you might just roll on the floor laughing at the end of this. The ones that outperform, the 20% that outperform, change every year. Are you with me?
Yes.
In other words, what we are saying is, please understand, if you're in Bangalore or in whatever city that you are, there's a Silk Board, very famous. How many of you have not heard of the Silk Board? Anybody in this room who doesn't know what Silk Board is?
I don't know. Like.
Okay, okay. And Deepti doesn't. Okay, so any of our Bangalore, Rahul, batao bhai, what is Silk Board? Batao.
So it's ideally a landmark. It's a huge. So if you're crossing before pandemic, if you're crossing by Silk Board, you just think, okay, 45 minutes just to cross that crossing.
Yeah. And he's of course not exaggerating. So the thing about Bangalore and the traffic is that you cannot crack a joke about Bangalore traffic. Because to crack a joke, there has to be an element of exaggeration. But what if reality is worse than, so like if you say 45 minutes lagega, to wo actually usko underestimate kar. Anyway, so here's the point. Okay, the point about just to kind of keep this conversation off tangent. If at Silk Board, or if you're in Bombay, if you're at Burli Seaface, wherever, if you're in Bombay, or if you're in Delhi, Karol Bagh, or Chandni Chowk, or Defense Colony, if all of us in this room right now, if we start running in the opposite direction of the oncoming traffic, okay, the 15, 16 of us in this room, if we start running in the opposite direction of oncoming traffic, what will happen?
Traffic will slow down, crashes, whatever.
Okay, and some of us will get injured.
Both sides.
Some of us will maybe lose our life. Yes. And some of us will
survive also.
Thank you. Who's saying that? Thank you, Dipti. Some of us will survive. And then those of us who survive will have mics shoved down our throats by the media, and they will ask you, Dipti, what did you do differently? How did you survive? And you would say, I got off the right side of my bed this morning. That's why I survived. Please understand, craziness is not the criteria for success. Craziness is the criteria for participation. Are you with me? And that's the survivorship bias. Flipkart was only the 634th company in India to try and sell books online. Okay. So the survivorship bias really is this. Somebody wants to read the misconception? Akanksha, you want to read the misconception? Let's go.
Yeah. So you should focus on the successful if you wish to become successful.
Okay, whereas the truth is,
When failure becomes invisible, the difference between failure and success may also become invisible.
okay. So, question, and this is the penny dropping moment. What does all of this mean for us? Rishi?
Sorry, I have a question that's why I raised.
Yeah.
But I'll attempt anyway. I think if you're only focused on the successful stories without the awareness of that there are failure points, you're just rooting yourself up for either emotional draining situation or a failure at some point anyway.
Okay. What was your question?
My question was probably irrelevant, but how do you then bring up layers of laws of attraction and a bunch of other things that are said in the world of spirituality on top of this? And how does it make or does not make sense? Because if I'm going into a situation saying, "Ha, failure bhi hota hai," I know that it exists. But the law of attraction is like, oh, you will attract you will attract what you're wanting to attract, or what is it that you're looking for, and then you focus on only success, something else may happen. So yeah, that sort of is.
So the law of attraction is really the law of averages. The law of attraction is really the law of averages, A, and B, like we've spoken in another context, the reward for being crazy is the opportunity to be crazy.
Yeah, that answers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what does this really mean for us? I mean, you could probably go on a TED talk and know about this, or you could read a book and know about this. What does it mean for us? What does the survivorship bias mean for us?
When we see only survivorship bias, or for that matter only success, then we may start thinking that like particular things which that person or that organization done will lead us to the success. So these are the only things to do.
Okay.
And so what, as Rishi was saying, that if we are missing on what are the wrong things, what are the mistakes which happen, then maybe we will also repeat those mistakes.
Sure. Okay.
If we don't know them.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? What does this mean for us? How do you want to utilize this? Saksham?
As in, like, can you repeat the question? Like,
no.
What is the question?
The question is what is the use of this? What is the use of knowing this?
The survivorship bias.
Yeah.
So basically, survivorship bias here is like, as we were talking about, like knowledge and skin. So basically, when you have the survivorship bias, you are basically looking at only those points which led to a success, but those points might not hold for you. Like, and just basically simply, it's like if you have like skin in the game, like as you were saying, like you will correct your course, and then you will actually get to know, like it might be like what the failure might have done that might have been might work for you. That's why, like, knowing about survivorship bias, that like what worked for someone else might not work for you is important.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
So it might see we exclude the false conclusions that we have, and probably we may gain some optimism in the way we are doing or looking at things. So it can lead to that optimistic belief also.
Okay.
Basically, like you are taking into account true positives, but you might not want to miss false positives.
Survivorship bias नहीं, COVID का टेस्ट हो गया ये तो भी, ठीक है, हाँ, ऋषि.
Maybe what it means for us is to understand that most things are basically random, and to be aware that there are certain things that certain people did that led to success for them, but that's not really a blueprint for you. You need to just figure out what works for you.
Okay. Okay. So let me frame this differently. When do you want to apply survivorship bias, and when do you not want to apply survivorship bias as a lens of understanding the world? Okay. You want to use survivorship bias and everything else that we'll speak about tomorrow, for instance, in the small d decisions of life, not in the big D decisions of life. What are the small d decisions? What are the big D decisions? The small d decisions are the decisions that you make on an everyday basis, right? What are some examples of the small d decisions? Which mutual fund to buy, for instance, or which maybe a product to buy for cleaning your home, etc., etc., etc. And there, survivorship bias you can use to kind of make better decisions. Where do you not want to care about survivorship bias, for example? When you want to decide what you want to do with your
life.
With your life. So it doesn't matter if nobody in India has ever been a successful saxophone player. Are you with me? There you don't want to use survivorship bias to say that, oh, no one has become and therefore I should not even
try.
Yes. So that. Okay. Excellent. I'm going to park the conversation there for today. We'll just quickly go around the room and understand where we are. We've been talking for close to 2 hours. It would be nice to just get some energy and a check-in as to where people are. Some of us have been speaking and some of us have been a little more silent. Let's just get a sense of where we are today. Yeah. So Ayushi, Kiran, Harshil, Ishanya, Dipti. Yeah, let's go.
I have a doubt actually from before the break. So when we were talking about the risk and the uncertainty aspect, while I was reflecting upon it on the break, I was like, is everything then uncertain?
Okay.
What are the life that we take? I am suddenly becoming clueless about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so life as we understand it is uncertain. So there are contexts within life, like we said, the casino or board games, for example, right? When you play board games and when board games have rules and regulations, any place that has got rules and regulations will be a place with risk. A place which does not have rules, regulations is likely to be uncertain. And yeah, most of life is uncertain. It's how it is. Yeah. Yeah, but right now I'm just curious to know what's your experience been for today. So I'd like to hear some voices. Let's go. Yeah, anyone?
So for today, I understood that it doesn't matter what the odds are. All that matters is taking an attempt and succeeding at the attempt.
Okay.
And to make fewer decisions and work on the fewer decisions so that you're able to make decisions ahead, which is kind of a loop. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. Anyone else?
Some areas where I have been wrong so far in whatever I'm doing in terms of when I'm actually making decisions in areas where there are a lot of options, then it's hard to choose. So yeah, I've been able to identify in a way what I can articulate what the issue is now in terms of where how I'm thinking more of.
Okay. Thank you, Rahul. Yeah, Talha.
This has been like, so far all of these things are pretty new for me. Yeah? I'm pretty new to heuristics and cognitive biases and things like that. So far, yeah, this is like, it is quite mind-opening, and these are really new things for me. So yeah, this, apart from whatever practical effect it will have on my life and things like that, it is just really good to know about all of these things. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? One or two more voices and we'll close.
For me, it's a mix of both overwhelm and experiential learning. So just trying to figure out, like as you said, knowledge. What sort of knowledge should I reframe with, and what sort of knowledge should I imbibe in myself? So just on that thought right now. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Is everyone feeling complete? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your time and thank you for your energy. We'll see you tomorrow, nice and sharp. Please, I mean, some of us did come in, I think, a little later today. Please try and be here by 7:55. You might find it that if you come in a little later, it's difficult for us to be able to, given that we have only 3 days and there's a bunch of stuff to cover. So do try and be here on time, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice day, guys. Yeah.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.